I'm Bob Colt, and we're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools, and I am joined by two of the world's greatest kindergarten teachers. And Dianna, just so I don't mispronounce your name because it's happened before, tell me.
Bartolacci.
Bartolacci.
Yeah.
Okay, and Rachael, I.
Yes.
Welcome. And Dianna, you've been a kindergarten teacher for, should I say, a long time?
Yeah. 30 blah blah blah.
And Rachael, how long have you been a kindergarten teacher?
A kindergarten teacher 5 years.
Yeah.
But teaching 18 years.
Well, you're both very experienced, and right now is kind of a key time because you're getting ready for kids to sign up for kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And how important is that to parents? What are you telling them to do?
Well, we have the kindergarten information night coming up on April 15th at 6 o'clock in the CPAC. And they can pick up packets and they'll hear different people talk about the curriculum and food service, transportation, different to answer any questions that they might have, because a lot of parents, it's their first time they're sending a little child to school that they're scared, just as scared as the parents are, or the kids are. Yeah.
But you're not scared anymore, are you? You've been
just
through
the
this.
First day.
Yeah.
Just the first day, just like the kids. Yeah.
And so, how do you explain what a first day is for a kindergartner to parents?
I think sometimes it's more traumatic for the parent. And usually the child does pretty well. They come in and that initial separation, and we try and make it very fun. And the first day is full of a lot of singing and books and just trying to get them acclimated. So really the first month or so you're doing a lot of routine work with them, learning the curriculum and learning the procedures like lining up and the rules for each classroom, where to go to music and what to do and all that.
But kindergarten's a lot different today than it was years ago.
Yes.
Talk about the change and the evolution of kindergarten, because you're getting kids some who are entering with very high level of skill, and others who are still pretty young.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. It used to be a more center. I mean, we used to be able to do a lot more centers, a lot more things with help. And it was half day, so you couldn't fit as many things in as you can now. But right now, we're expecting them to read at the end of the kindergarten year. They have to add to 5 and subtract from 5 and write sentences and draw a picture to go with their sentence. And so I guess that part of it is they need to know their letters and sounds, and we work on that a lot at the beginning, and we still do, but I think that's the main part. I think
that's probably the biggest shock for parents, is because they are thinking of when they went to kindergarten, and it was a transition from home or preschool to formal school, and now it's very academic. It's more like first grade in kindergarten.
Yeah.
We still try and make it really fun and magical, but the curriculum's very tough. So,
it used to be that it was kind of a transition of play for young people, but now, as you've said, with some of the books and materials that kids enter with, they could come in knowing a word, but they really have to complete a sentence now. So they really evolve during that first year. It's pretty important, isn't it?
Yes, and it's amazing to see that transition that they do make and they're capable of making. But kindergarten used to be, that's what kindergarten came from. It's a garden to nurture children to that next level. So that's, I guess, we're kind of where that came from. But so yeah, you do see that transition. It's nice to see that. But.
Yeah, and the laws changed a little bit. Kids are a different age now, actually, aren't they?
The cutoff this year will be October 1st, so children have to be 5 on or before October 1st to enter kindergarten.
So that's different. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I mean, kids come in with different levels of maturity.
Well, with the curriculum being so demanding, it's much better to have them a little bit older.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so the kids come in, they get a taste on, obviously, the introduction night. You're still kind of call it roundup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come in, and the parents get some background about what's going to happen. If you've never had a kid in Charlotte Public Schools and you're bringing them to kindergarten for the first time, how can you prepare them for what's coming up and what the school year would be. What do you say?
Well, before that, though, I think they need to know there's two different kinds of roundup. There's the informational night.
The informational night?
Yes, which will be April 15th at 6 to 7:30
Right.
at the Performing Arts Center. And then there's also the roundup, where after they'll come to that night and they'll get a packet of all the things they need to do and papers they need to fill out and all that kind of stuff.
Forms and
Everything.
medical stuff, all that stuff.
And then they'll get a lot of information on how the schools operate, and they'll be introduced to all the kindergarten teachers that night. But the following time is we call the roundup. That's when they come to the buildings and they drop off their paperwork, check and see if they need anything else, make their appointments for health, hearing and vision screening if they haven't done so. And they can tour the school. That's when they can actually see a classroom and interact with the teacher a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's the process to get them there.
It's also important for the district because you really get a better head count then too, don't you?
It's a pretty good head count. It gives you a good test to see where how many is coming in. But you always have parents that move into the district or have older children who know the process, and so they know where they pick up the packets and still hand them in. So we get more kids than what we do at Roundup. There's always more, but that's fine. We see them and when they come.
So in your collective years of kindergarten experience, how have the kids really changed? Have the kids changed? Have maybe their level of learning and preparedness for school has changed, but have they changed much over time?
Yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no.
It's a different world.
It is.
Yeah, it's a different. They're exposed to different things with technology and all these.
Yeah,
it's a different world, but. A 5-year-old's a 5-year-old, and they still need to play. They need to run. They need to jump, and those are the things that get them ready for kindergarten.
Right.
They need to be read to. They need to go have experiences, go on little field trips with the family,
climb and jump and spin and play with Play-Doh and bubbles and all kinds of sensory types of imagination, play.
Dramatic play. That wires their brain for learning. And I think we are so busy getting them to read and write and all this, we forget that they're children and they really need to do all that. That makes them better learners.
Yeah. And so now, what's our April date again?
April 15th.
April 15th, and at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
And so that's the introduction date, and then there'll be the roundup where kids can come into the school. And then what are you telling parents now, between now and when school actually starts? What do they have to do to get those kids ready?
Well, working on letters and sounds is a really big piece too. We used to do that all year long, and that's basically all we really worked on, is focused, is the letter people and working on that. Now we do still work on that, but we're so much more into we have to have them ready to read at the end of the year, that if they know their letters and sounds at the beginning, or most of them, that helps give them a big jump start.
Yeah.
Plus, I think if parents read to their children, that wires their brain too, that they hear the cadence of language. They understand, they get a lot of vocabulary just by being read to. So it's really important that parents read to their children. I mean, that sets the stage for their learning.
So you're both very experienced kindergarten teachers. How do you do it? It is not an easy job, is it?
It's fun too.
It is fun.
It's
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I look forward to it every day. It's always a new day. You think about their love of learning, and they love their teacher. They love to come to school, even if they've had a challenging day and it's learning is hard for them. In some days, they still want to come back. They still love that learning and being with their friends, and that's, I guess, what brings me back is every day.
That's what's special about kindergarten, is you get them, they're so fresh, they want to learn. They're not, and that's our job, is to turn them on and keep them turned on. So, because if they're not excited about kindergarten, if they're not excited about coming to school, it gets a lot harder. So it's fun.
Well, and Dianna, you've probably had a unique experience because you've seen a lot of kids go through the entire school system, right?
And I've had their children.
Yeah, and their children.
Yes.
And your own children are teachers now in the school system.
Yeah.
Well, that's fabulous. And so it's a wild experience to watch a kid grow up that way.
Right. It's such an honor to have children I've had in class have their children. It's just beautiful. It's just very fun, and very bonding.
Yeah.
So I have
how,
those tri-generation pictures. But
how do
I'm
you,
not going to be around for the fourth generation. I'm not going to have the grandchildren. Just want you to know that.
how do you think you've changed over time?
I'll tell you what, being a teacher has made me a better parent, because I have learned from fabulous families through the years how to be a good mom and how to be a good parent, and it's changed me personally to be, I think, a more patient person, just a better person. Yeah, the kids teach me something every day. The parents teach me something every day, almost every day.
So where does a kindergarten teacher get patience?
I don't know. People
We
tell me
know
that.
each other.
Yeah. People tell me that all the time. You have so many patience, but I don't know where I
Yeah.
get it. I don't know. Just
Mm-hmm.
I guess for the love of what we do, we know that that's where.
Plus, you find out when you teach that if you give them structure and you give them a daily routine, they fall into that, and they're pretty good. I mean, the behavior problems really come down after that.
Yeah.
So once you get a structure, get them learning, get them excited, it makes your job easier, and you could be more patient.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about that. You focus a lot on academics and getting them ready for school and learning to read so that they can read to learn. But what about behavior problems? What do you recognize? What do you look for kids that you can correct maybe at a very young age?
Seems like we have this conversation every day. We were just talking about a child today and how we're giving her routines and helping her just to know what she's supposed to do to be a good citizen and be a good person and have friends. And so we're just
And trying to let them know what they need to do, not me telling them the solution to the problem. But if two children are having a problem and they come to me and say, Mrs. I, so-and-so took my toy. Oh, well, that's a problem. How are you going to solve that? What are you going to do about that? Because in life, someone's not going to be there for them to tell them how to solve the problem every time. So trying to put that onto them, what are you going to do? What do you think you should say about that? Well, we'll try that out. And then say, how did that work for you? Well, that didn't work, or that worked, or, just those kinds of things. And they find, or if they solve a problem, well, I'll have the toy for 5 minutes, and I'll have the toy for 5 minutes. After 2 or 3 minutes, they're done, and, oh, she can just have the toy, or he can have the toy. So I think that really helps them to realize how to interact with each other, because that's part of it too, is a social part of kindergarten. We have a independent choice time, we call it, and it's Play-Doh and blocks and dramatic play, and that's the time where they can really interact and learn to, if problems like that come up, we're there to help them solve, guide them to that solution, but not tell them the solution.
And that's the thing with education right now. Problem solving is huge, right through the curriculum, right through high school. The new ACTs, they're all on problem solving. And really, it starts in kindergarten. They're learning how to solve their individual problems. They're learning how to solve the problems in learning, like math or whatever. It's just starts with us.
So do you think there's still a group of young people who come into kindergarten who just expect to be told what to do and don't have those problem-solving abilities?
Oh, I'm sure there are, yes. Yeah. And even the kids that do have some of those problem-solving abilities, I think they all have the ability. They just haven't been guided to do it. And the kids that have been guided still need the guidance. They're still 5. They still they're egocentric. They think everything is for them, and they want to.
It's not.
Yeah. So I think everybody, you have to help with that. Just some kids a little bit more than others, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
And you mentioned technology. How do you think technology has really helped kids at that level? Because, there's so many cool things out there.
It's a balance. We find it's a balance because if they're too involved in technology, we think that interrupts their learning at this age.
Talk about that.
Well, there's research out there that says if they are in too much, television,
screen
computer,
time.
Screen time. Thank you. That affects their learning. They're not as good at paying attention and at learning. So we're a little cognizant of that. We try not to overdo that, but we have iPads. We go to the computer lab. We do a lot, but we don't want it to be all that.
How do you force them then to interact and interpersonally communicate?
Oh, you don't have to force them. It
You
happens.
don't? That's all right.
Yeah, it's a very social. It's a very social age. Very
It
fun.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how will that change in the next few years? I mean, obviously they're in kindergarten now and you've described them as very social. How is that different from first graders to second graders to third graders? How do you think that progression usually goes?
I don't know. I think they're social all the way through, don't you? I mean, I don't think it just changes. I think with the advent of cell phones and that, you hear people complaining, children aren't, and teenagers aren't communicating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
yet.
I don't know either. I know I taught first grade for a while, and they were just as social and wanted to talk, as much as a kindergartner does. Maybe they had some problem-solving skills because they were in kindergarten. I think as time goes on, they're able to work their own problems out without going to the teacher and asking for help. But they still interact and socialize and want to be together.
And you've talked about problem solving, you've talked about reading. How about actually writing? Because this is a very important first step for a lot of young people, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Writing and reading, it's all tied together.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. When they're writing, they're using all the skills from reading. They've learned these letters and sounds, and it forces them to utilize that knowledge they have and put it on paper. So it cements in what we've been teaching with the letters. We might be teaching A goes A, B goes B, but it doesn't mean anything until they're writing on their paper, MOM, mom, and all those things. So all of a sudden it's real, and they use it, and it helps them become better readers too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at the end of the kindergarten year, the start is coming up. Obviously, you'll have the April open house. Parents will come in. You'll have a roundup. The kids will start in school. What happens at the end of the year? Where do you expect those kindergartners to be?
It's awesome.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Writing a full sentence, at least a full sentence, with a capital and a period at the end. And then some kids, I have a couple of kids that are writing, every year I have a handful that write more than one sentence. And then adding to 5 and subtracting from 5, and reading.
Different levels, all different
yeah,
levels?
different levels. Yeah, but at least a sentence on each page when their stories the way they leveled. At least a sentence for each page.
And very important for mom and dad to read to kids at home.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then through kindergarten, listen to them read.
Yeah.
And at home, before they come to kindergarten, the children can retell the stories back to their parents. So not only can a parent read the story, but then the child can retell by looking at the pictures. That's important skill, sequencing.
Okay, so
And
give us the
telling.
lineup one more time of dates and things that parents need to know.
Okay. Well, the information night is April 15th from 6 to 7:30. And then Washington has an open house, which is Tuesday the 22nd of April from 6 to 7:30. And then Parkview has also an open house on the 24th from 6 to 7:30.
Great. Dianna, Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations for great years in kindergarten at the Charlotte Public Schools. And I'm Bob
Yeah.
Colt. We'll continue our conversations.